Good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Mary Samuel, professor in the Department of Biostatistics and Informatics and president of the Faculty Senate at the Colorado School of Public Health. On behalf of our school's faculty and staff, it's my great pleasure to welcome you all, graduates, alumni, family, friends, to the 2022 Colorado School of Public Health Convocation. Today is a very special day for our graduates, and we thank you for joining us in recognizing their accomplishments. First, I would like to introduce our platform party for today's special occasion. Associate Dean for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, Cerise Hunt. Associate Dean for Academic and Student Affairs, Dr. Danny Britton. Our Convocation keynote speaker and Vice Chair of the Colorado Black Health Collaborative, Dr. Terry Richardson. Thank you for joining us today. The Dean of the Colorado School of Public Health, Dr. Jonathan Samet. Doctor of Philosophy graduate and speaker for the school's class of 2022, Alana Trumbull. Our school's program director at the University of Northern Colorado, Dr. Teresa Sharp. Associate Dean for Public Health Practice, Dr. Lisa Miller. Associate Dean for Faculty Affairs, Dr. Samantha Mawhinney. Chair of the Department of Epidemiology, Dr. Jill Norris. Associate Dean for Administration and Finance, Christine Gillen. Professor and advisor of one of our Health Services Research PhD candidates today, Dr. Richard Lindruth. Professor and advisor of one of our Biostatistics PhD candidates today, Dr. Katerina Kekris. Associate Professor and Dissertation Committee Member for one of our Biostatistics PhD candidates today, Dr. Brandy Wagner. Professor and advisor of one of our Epidemiology PhD candidates today, Dr. John Hokanson. Professor and Dissertation Committee Chair for one of our Community and Behavioral Health DRPH candidates today, Dr. Carol Kaufman. Chair of the Department of Community and Behavioral Health, Dr. Jen Lieferman. Chair of the Department of Health Systems Management and Policy, Dr. Glenn Mays. And finally, interim chair of the Department of Environmental and Occupational Health, Dr. Allison Bauer. Also with us today are our three faculty marshals, Dr. Adima Abdel Maksud, Dr. Lori Crane, and Dr. Carolyn DiGiuseppe. Welcome, everybody. It is, so now I ask you to please join me in welcoming Professor and Dean, Dr. Jonathan Samet, to the podium.
Good morning. Glad to be here and see faces instead of masks. Welcome, and what a beautiful day. I'm delighted to welcome each of you, our graduates, families and friends, our faculty, staff, and distinguished guests to the 2022 Colorado School of Public Health Convocation. This is our first in-person graduation in 3 years. None of us could have foreseen. It's wonderful. Let's let the helicopter take off. None of us could have foreseen at the beginning of 2020 how the world would change. This year's class will share the unique experience with the classes of 2020 and 2021 of graduating during the pandemic of our lifetimes. Unlike the graduates of the last few years who graduated in a virtual ceremony, those of you here today graduate is at the moment when the pandemic is in a lull, hopefully to be sustained. And here we are outside together sharing a beautiful Colorado morning, which is quite unpredictable, as you know, from last week. There are a few of our 2020 and 2021 graduates here today as well. They are listed in your program and have returned to walk across the stage today to share in the in-person experience of graduation, one that they didn't have during these last few years. Over the student years of the classes of 2020, 2021, and 2022, public health was transformed as we focus on the necessity and urgency of controlling the COVID-19 pandemic using all of our tools. And we all know that public health was politicized in unfortunate ways, stressing our agencies and our leaders. Now we have what we need to control this dangerous virus, particularly vaccines that work. Powerful events took place while you were students that further raised the urgency of addressing structural racism and its public health consequences. It's hard at this moment not to acknowledge that there was yet another tragedy 2 days ago with the school shooting. The issue of health inequities remains for you to take on, a topic that our Convocation keynote speaker, Dr. Terry Richardson, will address. We're experiencing the worsening effects of climate change, like the frequent and massive fires that have destroyed our forests and our neighborhoods. I think many of us know people who were touched by these fires. During the pandemic, our mental health has been adversely affected and violence has worsened. And now there is an unexplainable and horrid war in Ukraine that is taking thousands of innocent lives. And there are more challenges to come, some dramatic, like the COVID-19 pandemic, and others smoldering, sorry for the pun, like tobacco smoking and the new threat of electronic cigarettes. There's much for you to do as you get started, and there will be inevitably new challenges across your careers. You're ready for them. For the class of 2022, you will no longer need to explain to anyone what public health is and why it is important. Your family and friends know what you will be doing. I can't tell you how many times I've in the past explained what epidemiology is to people and then repeated the same lesson, including my family. Your skills are needed now and will be needed decades from now. You have made a career choice for our time and for the future. And today we celebrate. This is a great day. We celebrate the accomplishments of our graduates and share the warmest congratulations as you step into your professional lives as public health practitioners, researchers, policymakers, and more. As you leave the Colorado School of Public Health, you join a community of like-minded professionals and leaders who are ready and willing to partner with you. Several of these individuals are with us today. I extend a warm welcome to our public health partners, many of whom have served as your practicum preceptors, employers, and mentors. Thank you for opening your networks and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with our students. I also extend my warmest regards to our emeritus faculty, alumni, and our philanthropic supporters, all of whom embrace continued learning and the continued development of public health. And I welcome our faculty and staff, both those on the platform and those seated in the audience today. I particularly want to welcome the family and friends of the graduates. I know that you have supported them in many ways, especially during the ups and downs of the last few years. Graduates, please stand and thank your families and friends for their support. Great. Before we move to our formal ceremony, I would like to take a moment to honor our many distinguished faculty, staff, and students who received university and school awards this year. The awardees are honored by the presidents, chancellors, and provosts of the University of Colorado, Colorado State, and the University of Northern Colorado, as well as by the Colorado School of Public Health. This year, several Colorado School of Public Health faculty received notable university awards and recognition, and two in particular were nominated by our students and graduating class. It's interesting, being outside, we have helicopters and airplanes. Dr. Virginia Visconti, Assistant Professor of Community and Behavioral Health. Virginia has a fan club. She received the 2022 University of Colorado President's Excellence in Teaching Award. And Dr. Babette Greenwell, Clinical Assistant Professor of Community and Behavioral Health, received the 2022 University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus Chancellor's Teaching Recognition Award. In addition to the university's awards, we will recognize those who received our annual school awards, as well as our students, faculty, and staff who received other notable national and local recognition this year. You'll find a list of all awards and recipients on pages 8 and 9 in the program. I ask that our award winners here today please stand so we can recognize you once more for your outstanding accomplishments and for representing our school so effectively on our campuses across the Rocky Mountain region, nationally and globally. So award winners, if you are here, stand. Finally, as we prepare to say goodbye and good luck to students who are embarking on the next phase of their careers, we also pause to recognize others within our school who are celebrating a commencement of their own, retirement. Our retirees this year dedicated their careers to public health research and service and the teaching and modeling the public health mindset for all of our students as they prepare to be tomorrow's leaders. All of this year's retirees are listed on page 15 in your program. With us today are Dr. Gary Grunwald, Professor of Biostatistics and Informatics. Dr. John Hokanson, Professor of Epidemiology. Dr. Kathy Kennedy, Clinical Professor of Community and Behavioral Health. And Dr. Lisa Miller, Professor of Epidemiology and the school's Associate Dean for Public Health Practice. Doctors Grunwald, Hokanson, and Miller and Kennedy have been what I would call long timers with the school because they were faculty, I guess Kathy wasn't, in the original Department of Preventive Medicine and Biometrics that predates the school. Dr. Kennedy has been with the school since 2013 and served as the executive director of the Regional Institute for Health and Environmental Leadership since 1998. It's an honor to have these retiring faculty here today. They saw the school grow from one department in the School of Medicine to a thriving accredited school of public health that now has 5 departments, 3 universities, more than 2,600 alumni, 600 students, and 180 full-time faculty. And the school is now ranked in the top 20 graduate schools of public health in the nation. And as a reminder, we're in our 14th year. So much has happened. I think, let's see, Drs. Grunwald, Hokanson, Kennedy, Miller, please stand. I think you already have, but do it again so that we can thank you for your service to the school. You will all be missed. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of formally recognizing Lisa Miller with the 2022 Dean Special Recognition Award, honoring her decades of contributions to public health in Colorado and to the Colorado School of Public Health. During her most recent years as Associate Dean, Lisa has played a critical role in elevating the school's public health practice efforts through collaborations with local and regional public health organizations and with the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, CDPHE. During the COVID-19 pandemic, she was instrumental in our work to provide training and experiential learning to more than 110 student contact tracers for CDPHE in 2020 and 2021, as they helped to track the spread of the virus in those crucial early months. Dr. Miller also had an accomplished career with CDPHE from 1993 through 2017, serving multiple roles, including as Division Director for the Communicable Disease Branch and as our state epidemiologist. She was just the right person to be with us as the school took on how to help out with the pandemic. I want to take this opportunity during our convocation to congratulate her once again on this well-deserved honor and say thank you for her exceptional service to the school and to public health in Colorado. It is now my honor to welcome to the podium our 2022 graduating class convocation speaker and Doctor of Philosophy and Biostatistics graduate, Alana Trumbull. Throughout her time at the Colorado School of Public Health, Alana has been an involved student and public health mentor. She has a passion for helping others and served as a teaching assistant for biostatistics courses and also received a teaching fellowship to help develop a remote version of our biostatistical methods course, which she co-taught through a flipped classroom design. She also served as president and vice president of the Biostatistics Student Association, where she worked to create a community of support for incoming, lost my place here, for incoming and current students. Alana also served as a PhD student representative, where she represented students during department faculty meetings. She received multiple awards throughout her academic career, including the Maurice Davies and Strother Walker Awards from the Department of Biostatistics for her contributions in academic achievement. Alana has accepted a postdoctoral research position at the Laboratory for Interdisciplinary Statistical Analysis at the University of Colorado Boulder, where she will continue her passion for turning evidence into action. Congratulations, Alana.
Thank you, Dean Samet. Good morning. Welcome to the 2022 Colorado School of Public Health Convocation. It is an honor to be with you all today in celebration of this achievement. To my fellow graduates, congratulations. To Dean Samet and the faculty, administration, staff, family, friends, and mentors sitting in the audience, on the stage, and watching from home, welcome and thank you. We would not be here if it were not for your continued support and guidance. What a time to be in the field of public health. When I started my degree in biostatistics, I rarely encountered someone outside my field who knew or cared about things like the R0 value, test sensitivity and specificity, or case fatality rates. Now, thanks to COVID, what were once niche public health concepts have become common topics of conversation. The past 2 years have been a constant reminder of the importance and life-altering capacity of public health decisions. Unfortunately, those of us residing in Colorado have had additional reminders of the importance of public health decisions. A little over a year ago, 10 people lost their lives when a man opened fire inside a grocery store located in South Boulder, about 45 minutes from here. For me, this tragedy hit especially close to home. I grew up in South Boulder, and this store was and still is my neighborhood grocery store. After the shooting, in my frantic search to feel less helpless, I reached out to Dean Samet in the hopes of starting a discourse on campus about gun violence as a public health issue. I expected an automated response or for someone else to respond on his behalf, but to my surprise, Dean Samet responded directly to my email. I think that for a dean to take the time to respond to an out-of-the-blue email from a student he has never met speaks a lot about Dean Samet and the culture he has created at the Colorado School of Public Health. From his email, I learned that Dean Samet was on his way to that shopping center just after the shooting started. Gun violence is a public health issue. Unfortunately, in the past few weeks, we have received multiple harsh reminders of this. First, with a shooting at a grocery store in Buffalo, and just a few days ago, with a shooting at an elementary school in Texas. There are countless other examples of the pervasiveness of public health decisions in recent years. As Dean Sammet mentioned, about 5 months ago, the most destructive fire in Colorado history destroyed upwards of 1,000 homes in nearby Superior and Louisville. We were reminded that climate change and its subsequent impacts on people is a public health issue. About a month ago, the Supreme Court released a draft decision to repeal Roe versus Wade, impacting the healthcare of women across the country. 2 years ago, the death of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement brought the direct link between structural racism and negative public health consequences to the forefront of many public health discussions. Finally, according to a 2018 national survey conducted by the National Sexual Violence Resource Center, 81% of women and 43% of men reported experiencing some form of sexual harassment or assault in their lifetime, which is linked to increased risk of negative health behaviors. The list goes on and on. For me, it has sometimes been hard not to become overwhelmed or even depressed by the public health crises we face today. I know that many of you feel the same. I wasn't sure whether to talk about these crises today because, believe it or not, I actually don't want to be a downer on this happy day of celebration, but I decided to talk about them because these crises highlight the importance of the work that we are setting out to do and the incredible courage we all possess as we set out to do it. As I look out at this graduating class, I am struck by a profound sense of hope for what we will achieve and the power that we have. In the words of Fyodor Dostoevsky, the darker the night, the brighter the stars. When addressing the school after the Boulder shooting, Dean Sammet wrote, "What do we, the public health community, do in the face of continued gun violence?" The answer he gave was that we carry out research to strengthen the evidence to support prevention and provide informed advocacy and policy. The answer Dean Sammet provided drives at the heart of the power we possess as public health experts. We have been trained in the critical thinking process that is required to interpret qualitative and quantitative evidence and to make recommendations for action based on that evidence. We have the power to turn evidence into action for the benefit and service of others. This is a rare and valuable skill and should not be taken for granted. However, all of our training will have been for naught if we do not have a seat at the decision-making table. We need to be at the table with the policymakers, the CEOs, chancellors, and deans when they make decisions that will impact public health. From our training alone, I would say that we deserve that seat. However, the reality is that we may deserve it, we must fight for it. We cannot become complacent. In my personal experience as a biostatistician, sometimes we think our task is complete once we have analyzed the data and crunched the numbers. I would say that this is a mistake. We must intentionally work to be involved throughout the decision-making process, from the inception of a public health question to the implementation of any decisions and recommendations. So, how does one ensure a seat at the decision-making table? How does one fight for that seat? This is something I've been thinking a lot about, and while I don't have all the answers, I will share a few of my ideas that I hope will serve as sparks for future discussion. One thought is that we communicate in the language of the decision makers. We must explain our methods, reasoning, and conclusions accessibly and transparently. We must be relatable and show how our recommendations will lead to better outcomes for all the decision makers involved. Another idea is that we need to increase the diversity of the voices in our leadership roles. According to an article in Public Health Reports in 2017, 74.3% of tenured faculty in schools of public health were white. Yet people of color are often most adversely impacted by public health crises. The decision-making table must consist of a racially diverse range of perspectives and backgrounds. Sometimes this may mean that we amplify another person's voice or even step aside so that another's voice may be heard. Other times, this may mean that we fight for our own voice to be heard. Throughout my time at the Colorado School of Public Health, I have done my best to raise the voices of others or to raise my voice on behalf of others when I had a platform to speak. During my time serving as a student representative and the president of the Biostatistics Student Association, one thing I learned is that in order for your voice to be heard, sometimes you just have to be a pain in someone else's butt. For example, during the transition to remote learning, some courses considered using online surveillance systems to proctor their exams. I had learned from my training in online teaching that these systems have been shown to disadvantage certain groups of students and have not been shown to actually reduce cheating. I felt that I had to speak up and voice my concerns. I started small and emailed a few people, but no change. I emailed a few more and still nothing. I thought about taking the easier route and letting it be, but this issue was important enough to me that I decided to push myself to keep trying. Eventually, after sending many emails and talking to many different people, the issue was brought to those who could make a policy change. To my relief, the school decided to recommend against using these surveillance systems. Throughout this process, I felt like a nag and a bit like a self-righteous know-it-all. But in this case, I think that I was right and I did know. I learned that, though it may be uncomfortable to stand up to those above you, it is often what we have to do to bring about change. We must channel our inner Hermione Granger and stand up for what we know is right, even if it means rocking the boat. As Socrates put it, we must be a gadfly, buzzing around those in power and challenging the status quo. My final piece of advice for securing seats at the decision-making table is that we must never forget our abilities or forget our credentials. According to US News and World Report, the Colorado School of Public Health is ranked among the top 20 best schools and programs of public health in the nation. While receiving a degree from such an institution is a significant feat in itself, this graduating class in particular has overcome a lot. We completed a graduate degree during a global pandemic where some or all of our courses were transitioned to remote learning, all while processing the various public health crises that I have already mentioned. We are a group of committed, resilient, courageous public health advocates, and we are a force to be reckoned with. We deserve a seat at that table. Never forget that, no matter what else you may hear. I hope that as we continue throughout our public health journey, we continue to discuss, discover, and share ways to ensure our seats at the decision-making table. For those of you already at that table, I hope you will take the time to intentionally give advice and share how you got there. We have a duty to ensure that all of us as public health experts and advocates have a seat at that table. If we can combine our training with the ability to influence public health decisions, we will succeed in making the world a healthier and safer place. I am incredibly proud to be a part of this community of public health advocates who have dedicated their lives to the service of others. The skills we have gained to turn evidence into action for the benefit of others gives me great hope for the future. While there is much work to be done, I do hope that for today, you will put aside any worries you may have and live in this moment. I hope that you appreciate what an accomplishment this is and take the time to celebrate. You deserve it. Thank you and congratulations. I would now like to invite Dean Samet back to the podium.
Thank you, Alana. I have no doubt that you will be at the table. Now I have the honor of introducing Dr. Terry Richardson, Vice Chair of the Colorado Black Health Collaborative and our keynote speaker today. Terry has been a passionate advocate in addressing the health inequities faced by Colorado's Black and other communities, taking on, among other issues, the challenge of tobacco control, particularly menthol cigarettes. Terry grew up in Denver. From here, she went to Stanford for her undergraduate degree in biology, and then received her Doctor of Medicine from Yale, going from one coast to the other. Afterwards, she came back to Colorado and completed a residency with the University of Colorado Health Sciences Center, the campus that existed before the Anschutz campus. Over the years, Terry worked for Denver Health's Eastside Health Center, becoming its medical director, and she worked another 17 years at Kaiser Permanente, Colorado, where she became the physician lead for the African American Center of Excellence. In addition to her clinical practice, she focused on health disparities and equity and led clinical research focused on tobacco-related issues in the Black community and on a novel approach to colorectal cancer screening. She recently retired from clinical practice last June. Currently, Terry is an active member of the Mile High Medical Society, vice chair of the board and chair of the Health Access Committee for the Colorado Black Health Collaborative, and she leads the collaborative's barbershop salon health outreach program and other health equity projects. She also serves as a student mentor and preceptor for high school, college, public health, and other professional schools. She's won numerous awards, including the Florence Sabin Award from the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus in 2021. Terry's the right speaker for our time as we continue to address the health inequities that have been so apparent during the pandemic. Please join me in giving Dr. Terry Richardson a very warm welcome.
I'm retired, so I have to put on my glasses. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for allowing me to be part of this momentous occasion. I'm really honored, truly honored to be part of the Colorado School of Public Health's graduation ceremony. It feels great, doesn't it? To be outside, under the blue sky. We were confined for 2-3 years because of COVID-19. But just a few days ago, we were lifting up branches off the ground from the late snow, the snowstorm. That's Colorado. I've learned to take a shovel, an umbrella, something for the sun. You just never know what's going to happen. But today, this day was meant to be because the sun is shining brightly in colorful Colorado. Let's clap it up. Look at that beautiful blue sky. You see, I'm starting out nice, but I'm going to tell you what you need to do a little later. So I'm going to start out and be nice. On this lovely day, I want to start by congratulating the class of 2022, as well as your families, friends, and your favorite pets who supported you through this important achievement. I know you all are bubbling with excitement. I certainly know the feeling. I remember my Yale Medical School graduation. I had on a blue and white dress, some blue shoes to match. I was looking good and feeling even better. No one was certain of the weather either at that time. We didn't know if it would hold up. And rain is really my least favorite type of weather. And guess what? It rained and rained hard all day. But even though we had an outdoor ceremony, the amazing thing is that I did not get wet. My hair didn't get messed up. More importantly, it did not dampen my mood because that was my day. And today, this is your day. It's your day. Well, on my graduation day, because now it's about me and you, I must confess that much of the day's proceeding was a blur. I hope that's not the same for you. Yet I do remember tossing my cap in the air like I just didn't care. You're probably ready for that moment as well. At some point during the process, I heard this is a 2-day thing, but you worked hard to make it to this point. So you will get your chance to celebrate in whatever way you want. You can throw your cap in the air as high as you can. You can shout. Some of you may be criers. You can even cry. And I say, or do a little dance. However, before all that celebrating, you've got to listen to me. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, so what I was saying is, before all that, I'm going to share a few words with you. And in the midst of this exciting and important time, I hope you find a word, a phrase, or a concept that will remain in your consciousness. I'm going to start like this. Life can be filled with uncertainty, and we often encounter things that are out of our control. Uncertainty has crept up in our consciousness over the last few years. Uncertainty can grab us and hold us tight when we least expect it. We certainly did not expect to witness a COVID-19 pandemic We keep hearing about that, but that was way up there. It was deep in our brains. Think about the mass deaths that occurred, the devastation. Early on, no one was collecting racial and ethnic data. Even the CDC was silent on race. Top public health officials, we won't say their names, talked about always following the data, but not all the data was available to follow. A public health official in Milwaukee who led the charge to claim racism as a public health crisis a year before the pandemic did what we expect public health leaders to do. She took out her equity lens. She started questioning and then strongly encouraged a collection of racial and ethnic data. She knew that the historical structural inequities would likely be exacerbated during the pandemic. When the data became available, many people said they were not surprised about the disproportionate cases and deaths among some people. Yet nothing had been done. I get excited sometimes. Nothing had been done to protect the essential workers, the meat packers, the bus drivers, the grocery store workers, the taxi drivers, the butchers, the bakers, the candlestick makers, and more. Politics, passivity, and past history created a less than stellar outcome in this pandemic, this public health crisis, especially early on. Uncertainty can grab and hold you when you least expect it. We did not expect to witness, thanks to the media, a heinous crime. Up close and personal, we saw a police officer kneel on a Black man's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. 8 minutes and 46 seconds, resulting in his death and subsequent social unrest across our nation. Many people in the Black community suffered vicarious trauma due to this incident. They are killing our babies, I heard some of my patients explain. The uncertainty of the times in these past few years dictated an angry mob storming the US Capitol in an attempt to overrun the presidential election. A 6'8" US women's basketball player being detained in Russia on drug charges, presumably for political reasons. She was just trying to get home. In reference to the player's detainment, a couple of Republican members of Congress encouraged the president to let Russia know that Americans will not be made political pawns in the midst of the country's war on Ukraine. The uncertainty of the time dictated a trans woman competing in the women's NCAA swimming championships, winning gold in the 500 freestyle. I love sports, and let me just put that in. This was viewed as a victory by some, akin to Jackie Robinson breaking the color line in professional baseball. By others, it was viewed as an unfair advantage or an assault on women's athletics. We were not anticipating the Russian military invasion of Ukraine and the atrocities that occurred. The mass graves filled with civilians, the grandmas, the kids that were killed, the rapes, the displacement of Ukrainian families, preschool, schools, and other infrastructure destroyed, and the threats of nuclear weapons. Not to mention the school and supermarket shootings. Those were mentioned earlier. Even you all can go on and on recounting the uncertainties of life. However, I'm gonna move on and move forward because this is your day, like I said. So don't let uncertainty stifle you, because despite the uncertainty, you can still focus, you can prosper, and favor your destiny. As Deirdre McLaren says, destiny is a destination. It is one's place of purpose. The path to your destiny is uniquely yours. Destination, purpose, unique. I say right on. Nowadays, you guys say dope. That meant something different in my day, but right now you guys say that's dope. When I first heard that, I was like, what? Dope to us was something different. But destination, purpose, and unique path. I'm gonna say right on, and you can say dope. Regarding the unique path, I have walked through the halls of a few institutions. So I know, even though I'm only 20, but so I know there's some degree of indoctrination that occurs by design. Whether it's medicine or public health, there are principles that are weaved into the learning and help create the standardization that can benchmark the progress in a profession. Nevertheless, the path to your destiny will be uniquely yours. I'm glad I have some friendly faces down here up front. Makes me feel good. I want to share just a few concepts that I think will embody the public health moniker while also embedding elements to incorporate along the way to your unique destiny. First and foremost, you should hold true to the values of public health that you learned during your time at the Colorado School of Public Health. I'm sure Dean Sammet would be happy about that. But this degree, your education, wow, this is great. But know that it simply laid the foundation. You are not done. Surprise, surprise, you're not done. You must continue fortifying and building on this foundation, including finding your true voice. Someone earlier mentioned your voice. Building on the foundation starts with commitment. What will you commit to? Look to your neighbor on the right and left and say, what will you commit to? Ask them, what will you commit to? Okay, I see you guys did it. All right. Public health, as you all know, because I'm speaking to the choir, but we've got family members too. So everyone needs to know that public health is about preventing disease, protecting and promoting the health of all, with all caps, ALL, all in caps, people and the community. When we think about the US, what will it look like in the future? Ponder that for just a moment. What will the US look like in just a few years? Projections are that by 2050, 2050, our population will be even more diverse. With this in mind, and even if the projections are not correct for you statisticians and data people, even if the projections are not correct, will you commit to leading with an equity lens in your work? Will you celebrate all forms of diversity in your communities, whatever way you define that, and strive to understand and broaden your knowledge of different cultures and ways of being, not just by reading books and taking classes, but by direct interactions, exposure to environments that will immerse you in these communities. Then use what you learn and feel. And I say what you learn and feel because sometimes we forget about the feeling part. It's not just about what's up here, it's what's here in the heart. So use what you learn and feel to provide better care to the community. Will you commit to diversity, equity, and inclusion? I've been about that most of my career. Some call it DEI, some people call it EDI. We don't want to call it DIE. So we want it to be more, you know what DIE is? It's a 3-letter word. So don't let this die. Let this be more than letters on a page or empty words rolling off your tongue. People know I'm pretty frank, and one thing I hate is people just saying stuff because it's the word or the phrase of the month. Let it be real. We need all of you to buck the systems that have often excluded the others, and you can define that in a number of different ways. Strive for a new day, a new way to make sure all communities have what they need to optimal health, to achieve optimal health. And I'm going to say it one more again, as we used to say back in the day. Strive for a new day, a new way to make sure all communities have what they need to achieve optimal health. That's what it's all about. What will you commit to? I'm looking over here at you again. What will you commit to? We need all of you to be leaders. Now, I know that it's far easier. The wind is trying to, play a little trick on me here, but it is far easier. Hold on just a second. It's far easier to be a follower rather than a leader. We need you to be innovative, creative, and leading in all the spaces. Take all the tools you have that you've learned and find solutions to complex public health problems. Lead in that respect. Remember that leadership is not just about a title. It's not about checking off a box. Rather, it's being a team leader, being open to growth opportunities, rooting for all team members, not just yourself, but rooting for all team members to reach their potential, tackling the difficult public health and social issues, and being a champion for the marginalized. A great leader will leave their mark along their path. Do not ever stop learning. Your education does not end on this graduation day. Be lifelong learners. Aristotle, somebody mentioned Socrates, but I like Aristotle. Continue to be inquisitive and curious. While your professors have been great and they taught you a lot, I'm going to give them their props. All right. And now I'm hearing that it's one of the top public health schools. I didn't know all that, but I figured as much. Know that there are many people out there in the community without any letters behind their names who can help fortify your foundation and teach you a few things. I learned this at my first gig. Isn't that a modern word? I learned it at my first gig at the Eastside Health Center. Those patients, many of very modest means and education, taught me about public health, the social determinants of health, the practical application, the real deal. They taught me that health and well-being is not contained within the walls of a building. Now, intrinsically, I knew this, but had been learning lessons in a classroom in the ivory tower for quite a while. And this had shown me a narrow view of things. And so I did venture out into their homes and their community to learn about public health and the social needs they had. Now, this practice was not necessarily approved by my employer, nor did they know I was going into the homes, but it was needed to improve the health of that community. I spent 34 years in the healthcare space trying to make a difference, looking at my patients as members of a broader community and needing more than just a prescription for their diabetes, hypertension, or asthma. In the early years, I thought I listened intently, but did not always hear what they told me. I was a much better provider when I heard what they said. I encourage you all to be active listeners when engaging the communities that you serve. They will tell you what they need and what you need to know, and sometimes what you need to do. I'm going to come to the end of what I have to share with you today, and thank you for listening. Your journey will be influenced by your classroom lessons. Your professors have done well. The education you receive from the community, make sure you're open to learn from the community. The practical application of your learning, sometimes we forget about that. We're just way too cerebral about it. And the uncertainty that surrounds you. Bob Goff, you may not know him, but he calls himself a recovering lawyer. He's also an author and a life coach, and he says, embrace uncertainty. Some of the most beautiful chapters in our lives won't have a title until much later. As this chapter of your life ends, promise yourself that the next chapters of your life will build upon the last, that you will take this education that you were privileged, and yes, I say privileged, look around the world. Take this education that you were privileged to have and keep learning, growing, and giving. No matter what area of public health you pursue, and probably some of you didn't know there were so many areas, but there's education, prevention, environmental concerns, research, statistics, data, health equity, and more. Strive to make a positive and lasting impact on the planet. Notice I didn't just say here in the US, you can go wherever you want and make an impact. Make this world a better place. We are depending on you. We are depending on each and every one of you that's graduating. Favor your destiny. Your destiny is waiting. Thank you for listening this morning.
Terry, thank you so much. That was wonderful. And I think for the graduates, for all of us, we will remember your words. Now it is a time for the reading of the names. Associate Dean for Admissions and Student Affairs, Dr. Danny Britton, please join me at the podium.
I'm going off script to say, I think one more round of applause for Dr. Terry Richardson. Thank you, Dean Samet. Good morning. It is my honor to recognize the 2022 graduating class and those graduates from 2020 and 2021 who are also here with us today. As students rise and accept their degrees, you will notice the salmon and black stole worn over some of the academic regalia. This is the symbol of Delta Omega, the National Public Health Honor Society. To be eligible, students must be in the top 25% of their graduating class. In addition, these students were selected not only for their outstanding scholarship, but also for their participation in public health or school activities and their commitment to the practice of public health upon graduation. Induction into this society constitutes a tribute of the highest distinction. All students wearing the Delta Omega stole are noted on page 14 of your program, and you will also see the Delta Omega symbol next to the graduates' names. Congratulations to all of our newly inducted members of the Delta Omega Honor Society. Faculty marshals, will you please direct the graduates to stand as their programs are called? Will the first row of candidates for the degree of Master of Public Health please stand and come forward? Mustafa Al-Mafrachi. Omar Al-Radadi. Dina Bam. Cameron Bean. Ruth Paola Bedoy. Megan Bellamy. Cody Berkabine. Elizabeth Bolin. Alyssa Marie Santos Boral. Sophia Kothar Buhawela. Christina Rochelle Brandveen. Amanda Bryce. Bailey Brooks. Caitlin Elizabeth Buck. Abigail Kumanish. Alex Carmichael Pfeiffer. Amelia Cavazos. Yaji Choi. Karin Christensen. Kate Clancy. Kelsey Lynn Compton. Kimberlyn Cook. Michelle A. Cook. Samantha Andrina Cook. Kimberly Cooper. Anupama Anugraha Das. Amelia Davis. Nellie Rose Depterios. Mamadou Diallo. Anne Devine. Alyssa Dominguez. Riley Ann Donahue. Shannon Donovan. Sulafa Ilhassan. Blake Ellis. Ruth Eshete. Taryn Frazier. Kaylin Sue Friesen. Gilbert Frew. Sloan Claudia Garcia. Rohan Garg. Heather Leanne Judici. Angela Golding. Emma Gooding Lord. Jessica Ann Guerra. Dejanay Guillory Williams. Oh, Libby Harrington. Libby Harris. Salik Hatcher. Madeline Wareham Hemke. Emily Stanfield Himes. Haley Katrina Poland. Emily Janine Holcomb. Maisie Alexa Hum. Amanda Jade Ironton. Sahara Karki. Emma Keever. Teresa May Lee. Victoria Patricia Lee Garza. Jessica Stephanie Lopeman. Catherine McQueen. Julia Seamus Magayais. Monica Ann Naley. Brittany Martins. Scott McIntyre. Meryl Moransky. Morgan Metzger. Sarah K. Moore. Yan Nguyen. Moavia Obeid. Amanda Lynn Otamendi. Evelyn Ozog. Deanna Gallegos Payne. Jillian Penn. Ana Paloma Perez Portillo. Cody James Peterson. Jennifer Pham. Kelsey Finney. Wei Feng. Tracy Plummer. Alicia Catherine Privet. Catherine Lisa Razavi Shear. Lisa Romero. Tara Lynn Roston. Madison Schreiber. James Sherrick. Jessica Short. Gerardo Silva Padron. Liza Silverman. Nilu Solomonpour. Nick Susi. Emily Steely. Jennifer Stobbs Vergara. Nina Strayhorn. Saba Tassim. Ariana Talai. Shasta Star Talbol. Anna Tayeb Nazad. Fatima Alejandra Tenson. Deepa Trivedi. Michael Tubolino. Christina Alexandria Turner. Ilana Valladares. Cassidy K. Walter. Chloe May Wilson. Madison Elizabeth Winsand. Valerie Yim. Jason Youngsmith. Congratulations to all of our Master of Public Health graduates. Will the candidates for the degree of Master of Science, Doctor of Public Health, and Doctor of Philosophy please stand and come forward? Master of Science candidate Shelby Jane Smith. Congratulations to Shelby and all of our Master of Science graduates. Will our Doctor of Public Health graduate today, Catherine Ann Boyd, and Dr. Carol Kaufman, please come forward? Dr. Catherine Ann Boyd, Doctorate in Public Health and Community and Behavioral Health. Dr. Boyd's dissertation is titled Perceptions of Health in the Refugee Community, a Mixed Methods Study. She will be hooded by her dissertation committee chair, Dr. Carol Kaufman. Speaking for Dr. Boyd, I would like to thank my committee, Dr. Carol Kaufman, Dr. Ben Ingman, Dr. Ginny Puma, Dr. Ann Lambert-Kersner, and Dr. Maythem Al-Shadood for guiding me through the doctoral process. I am extremely grateful to the members of the Denver metro area refugee community and stakeholders who were willing to engage and participate in the study. I would also like to thank my family and friends for the continued support over the many years it took to get this degree. Congratulations, Dr. Boyd. Will the Doctor of Philosophy graduates and their faculty advisors please come forward as your names are called? Dr. Mona Abdo, PhD in epidemiology. Dr. Abdo's dissertation is titled Pulmonary Function, Frailty, and Physical Function in Men in the Multi-Center AIDS Cohort Study. She will be hooded by her advisor, Dr. Samantha Mawini. Speaking for Dr. Abdo, I would like to thank my advisors, Dr. Samantha Mawini and Christine Erlinson, for their continued support, guidance, and mentorship throughout my dissertation. I am grateful to have had the opportunity to complete my dissertation under their mentorship. I would also like to thank the members of my dissertation committee, Drs. Carolyn D. Giuseppe, Madiha Abdel Maksud, and Todd Brown, for their continued support throughout my dissertation. Last but not least, I am grateful and thankful for my family and friends, especially my parents and siblings, for their endless support and encouragement. Congratulations, Dr. Abdo. Dr. Kelsey Marie Owsley, PhD in Health Services Research. Dr. Owsley's dissertation is titled Hospital Profitability and Safety Net Engagement, an assessment of the 340B drug discount program and not-for-profit hospital acquisitions. She will be hooded by her advisor, Dr. Richard Lindruth. Speaking for Dr. Owsley, I am very grateful for my mom, who has always been my biggest supporter, and for my fiance for always being there throughout the entire PhD program. I would also like to thank my mentor, Dr. Richard Lindruth. His dedication to students is incredibly admirable, and I am very fortunate to have him as my advisor and teacher. I would also like to thank additional faculty members in the Healthy Systems Management and Policy Department, in particular Drs. Kathy Bradley, Glenn Mays, Marcello Perrione, Greg Tung, Lauren Nicholas, all of whom I've learned a great deal from. Lastly, I would like to thank my student peers. I'm not only leaving with a degree, but with many close friendships. Congratulations, Dr. Owsley. Dr. Nicole Eugenia Richmond, PhD in epidemiology. Dr. Richmond's dissertation is titled The Association Between a Multidimensional Smoking Behavior Index and Chronic Obstructive Pulmonary Disease Outcomes. She will be hooded by her advisor, Dr. John Hokinson. Speaking for Dr. Richmond, I would like to thank the Colorado School of Public Health for supporting its students with all the necessary resources to quickly adapt to a virtual format, allowing us to continue with our program and be here today. Additionally, I'm thankful for high-speed internet and Zoom. The ability to stand before you all and achieve this great honor is because all of the support, encouragement, guidance, and sense of humor from my professors, peers, colleagues, friends, and family. Thank you to Caitlin Cross Barnett, Susanna Widman, Susan Berry, Lynn Kiltica, Dianca Pierce, Tree Tran, Tessa Kroom, Brenda Witt, Sue Amante, Nancy Thacker, Lauren Rhodes, Emily Cleveland, Danielle Cleary, Susan Boldessar, Wesley Wood, Fernando Mena Carrasco, Sergio Lisma, Marcy Campbell, Yisha Lee, Andrea, Kevin, Jack, Thomas, Ray, and Maureen Shirtleff, Margaret Allen, Lucy Malone, William Ellis, my stepdad, John Berg, my mother, Martha Richmond. I have a little bit more. The brilliant faculty who agreed to serve on my committee, Karen Hoff, Greg Kinney, Kendra Young, Aaron Austin, and lastly, the best mentor I could have ever asked for, John Hokinson. You are all forever on the holiday card list if I were to ever actually send holiday cards out. Now that I have time, it may happen. Congratulations, Dr. Richmond. Dr. Yonghua Zhuang, PhD in biostatistics. Dr. Zhuang's dissertation is titled Deep Learning on Graphs for Multi-Omics Classification of COPD. He will be hooded by his advisor, Dr. Katrina Kekris. Speaking for Dr. Zhuang, firstly, I would like to express my sincerest gratitude to my tremendous advisor, Dr. Katrina Kekris, for her continuous support, guidance, motivation, encouragement, and seemingly limitless patience. Her advice on research as well as my career development has been invaluable. Besides my advisor, I would like to thank the rest of my thesis committee for sharing their expertise, sage advice, and encouragement. I would also like to express my gratitude to my friends and my family. I thank my friends, my parents, my brothers for their support. And most importantly, I would like to thank my wife, Dana Wang, and my daughter, Mia Zhuang, for their love, support, and generosity through all the late nights and long weekends. Congratulations, Dr. Zhuang. Dr. Alana Marie Trumbull, PhD in biostatistics. Dr. Trumbull's dissertation is titled Unbiased Consistent Estimation and Size Alpha Inference for Longitudinal Models with Missing Data. She will be hooded by her program director, Dr. Brandy Wagner. Speaking for Dr. Trumbull, this degree would not have been possible without the support I received from many people. I would first like to thank Deb Blick, who was an outstanding research mentor and an even better friend. Thank you to Brandy Ringham and Keith Moeller for their support throughout the research process. I am grateful for the guidance I received from my committee members, Gary Grunwald, Brandy Wagner, Alex Kaiser, and Donna DeBelia. Thank you to Michael Hudgens for teaching me how to do research in the first place, and to Ann Doherty for your continued guidance and mentorship. To Mom, Dad, Leah, Roz, and Bradley, thank you. Your unwavering love and support has meant the world to me. Congratulations, Dr. Trumbull. And a big congratulations to all of our doctors of philosophy. And finally, I think it's important that I have the pleasure of recognizing our residency program graduates. With us today, who already went through the MPH line, is the graduate of the Preventive Medicine Residency Program, Dr. Anna Pama Das. And she's out here, so if you'd please stand. Thank you. Congratulations, Dr. Doss, and all of our residency graduates today. So with great pleasure and pride, I congratulate each of you before your families, friends, faculty, and staff on your graduation. You're amongst the brightest public health students and professionals, and I wish you all the very best as you strive to accomplish your ambitions in your careers and lives. Although you leave the school as students, you will remain a part of our community as alumni. This partnership that we shared with you in the classroom, both in person and online, will now extend into the communities you serve and the careers you choose to create. Ensuring that this partnership remains strong is among our very highest priorities. Regardless of which campus you attended or which program you pursued, you are now alumni of the Colorado School of Public Health. And we hope that your future plans include ongoing commitment to and involvement with your school. Good luck and congratulations, graduates. members of the faculty and guests, as Associate Dean for Academic and Student Affairs, may I present to you the Colorado School of Public Health class of 2022.